Only 2 topics this week. The first, a Netflix show that everyone has already finished watching, and a podcast that probably nobody has an interest in listening to. I want to talk about something that is not entirely new, but with the Netflix model nowadays, where things just get dumped onto the internet and it's up to you to just either binge watch them or watch them over a little bit of time, I get to things maybe a little bit later than what the majority of others do. And I want to talk about Master of None, Season 2 specifically. So if you're not up to speed with what this is Aziz Ansari, who you may know as Tom Haverford from Parks and Rec, but it's his Netflix show that he's had for, like I said, a couple years here. And I honestly think that Season 2 not only improves on Season 1, but drastically improves on Season 1. And I was a pretty big fan of that first season, specifically because you're watching Aziz kind of navigate the treacherous online dating and just dating in general, being single in the modern age that we find ourselves in. I was a big fan of his book Modern Love, which what the first season, a lot of it is based on. In Season 2, we kind of evolve from that, so we see his love of food, his love of travel, Italian, and his love of cinema, because he does direct a bunch of these episodes, but they're loving odes to like The Bicycle Thief and a lot of the classic Italian directors like Antonioni and Fellini and a bunch of these other directors. You can very much see that he's drawn inspiration. There's 2 episodes in particular that I want to discuss, which is Thanksgiving, which is they invite Angela Bassett on as a guest star, and you really see him and his friend, who I'm going to blank on her name, but her coming to terms with her becoming a lesbian inside of her black family. But you see these over successive Thanksgiving over the 30-minute episode. And I thought it was just an incredible look at something that I don't have a window to a lot of the time, which is not just trying to come out of the closet, but coming out of the closet in a minority family, which has its own sets of rules and its own sets of hardships. And allowing this side character to have their own moment and their own episode just shows the bravery, I think, that Aziz has. It's like, I don't have to be in every single episode. And that is especially true in the episode New York, I Love You, which is this pastiche of these other different stories of random characters that you never see again and you never have seen in this show. You're kind of walking around New York and they pass off onto this next story, about 5 or 6 different ones, and they all kind of meet up at the end and converge. In particular, there's this whole 4-minute sequence of this person who is doing American Sign Language. She's deaf, and it's not just silent. I mean, it's completely silent. No music, no nothing. And you're just watching the show and her communicating. And I thought this was so interesting. What I love that Aziz has done, and I think this is kind of a broader thing that Netflix in particular seems to be wanting to do, is giving voice to the usual voiceless. I mean, Aziz got to start because somebody back, 10 years ago had the brilliant idea of taking a character that was going to be named Tom Haverford, and they gave it to an Indian American. And he has been able to just excel his career because he's very talented. But in here, he's showing that being able to tell stories from different points of view and different cultures and different backgrounds is essential to having empathy. I've said this before. It's a quote that I've cribbed from Stephen Tobolowsky, who's this long-time character actor. You'll probably know him the most as Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day, the guy who gets punched in the face. But he says that actors are empathy machines. They're there to help you understand another person's point of view or another culture's traditions. And Aziz has really delved into that spectacularly by giving not just himself a storyline, but also all these other characters' storylines, in something that is both sweet, funny, and something unlike you ever see on television. I'm gushing because I love this show. You should go watch Master of None. Alright, so I know that I'm wearing the exact same outfit, but I swear this is actually a different day. I want to talk to you a little bit about a podcast. I know, those things that don't have video attached to them, it's weird. I am in love with the podcast called The Adventure Zone. This is from the McElroy brothers, so if you know about My Brother, and Me, this hugely popular podcast, they and their dad, the three brothers and their dad, play Dungeons and Dragons. I know what you're thinking, sounds super lame. It is one of the funniest things that I listen to on a weekly basis. I'm trying to catch up because they've been doing it for like 3 years. So I'm about just over halfway of their 60-some episodes that they have. In fact, you know what I'll do? Let's travel to the future and you can listen to part of it.
So I've got it in like a little sack. Think of it that way.
Okay,
like my
got
suit glove.
You got a little sack. You here go.
Yeah.
You have a little, tiny little sack. We want to make sure we've got it straightened out.
You don't want the candies and sweets? Come on, think about it.
I tap it with the glutton's fork and I swallow it.
What the fuck?
You have been holding on to that one.
Yes, I have.
I'm gonna have to. This is like the most magical object that there is.
Yep.
No, I'm saying glutton's fork works on non-magical. This is like the most magical.
I thought it was just, it's got to be small enough to eat it.
No, it's small non-magical object.
But I'm doing it with the glove.
You can eat this thing, but it's gonna stay a stone.
How funny was that super out of context? The thing about it is that I have played at various times in my life Dungeons and Dragons, once in university, and then afterwards some work friends and I got together and played for about a couple years. And it all comes down to how good, first, the DM is, and secondly, how playful the rest of the people are. Really, at the end of it, Dungeons and Dragons is an improv game. You are creating a story with other people at the table. And if you're into that and you want to do these crazy different solutions to problems, then it is a fun time. It really makes me want to get back into Dungeons and Dragons, and I literally have no time to do that. But there you go. If you are looking for a funny podcast that you think you might not be interested in, then The Adventure Zone is something that I'm going to recommend to you. But seriously, it's really, really good. If really Dungeons and Dragons is nothing at all something that interests you, then listen to My Brother and Me if you're still one of the few that don't listen to that show, because that is also super funny. Definitely funnier than this.